Open this gate right now or I'm calling the cops on your wife. Victoria Sterling, president of the Willowbrook Estates HOA, stood at my ranch gate trembling with fury. For months she'd claimed safety violations, but today she arrived with menace in coral blazer form. When my wife Elena told her, calmly, no warrant, no entry, tiles of rage cracked in Victoria's voice as she dialed 911. Help! A dangerous woman is threatening me at Thompson Ranch. It was pure invention. What she never dreamed was who my wife actually was, and what would happen once real officers arrived. Before we gallop farther, a calm breath. Friend, thank you for spending a few precious minutes here. Stories like this take time to craft and honesty to tell. If you appreciate seeing truth pull ahead of deceit, tap that like button and subscribe so more good folks can hear authentic stories told straight. Alright, back to the ranch where everything was about to explode. That morning smelled of dew and feed. I was up before sunrise scattering organic grain to my feathered maniacs, watching gold spill over our greenhouse roof. My grandfather had purchased this soil with post-war savings, Dad built the barn, now I was steward of 3 generations of stubborn legacy. For 10 years I'd coded software until my reflection looked pixelated. Farm life had rebooted my soul. Elena, meanwhile, zipped through the kitchen in her sharp navy suit. Her phone pinged every few seconds. She paused long enough to brush my cheek with espresso-flavored lips. Big week ahead, she said. By weekend, I'll have extraordinary news. I asked if it was that mysterious case she'd been dodging questions about. She only laughed, light, musical, hiding something fierce behind the melody. Better than that. Trust me. Then, hand on the doorknob, whatever happens in the next few days, we're in this together. The rooster crowed, the wind carried the scent of storm and rising tension. I had no idea breakfast had just served me a prophecy. 2 months earlier, Victoria had come smiling to the gate, heels sinking in gravel, sunshine refracting off her diamond brooch. She'd brought the kind of friendliness that smells faintly of varnish and greed. Mr. Thompson, she purred, have you considered what this land could be worth? Developers call me daily. You could retire now. I told her politely the ranch wasn't for sale at any price. Her smile cracked like porcelain. Everything has a price. You'll see. Then she turned, leaving perfume and warning drifting behind. Since that day, a black SUV had occasionally idled outside our fence. I told myself it was coincidence. It wasn't. Now, weeks later, she marched up my drive again, Robert Hayes trailing, suit tight around regret. Victoria's blazer was coral, impossibly bright against the dust. She greeted me with sugary venom, we need to discuss the problems with your farm. What problems? I asked, gentle but firm. The smell for starters. The roosters. Residents are complaining. It hurts property values. I pointed toward my coops. This ranch stood here before any HOA charter existed. Protected under the original owner statute. She smiled like a chess master setting bait. Times change, Mr. Thompson. Our standards don't. That evening at the community center, beneath flickering fluorescent light and the scent of burnt coffee, I faced a crowd of strangers, suspiciously vocal ones, pleading concerns. All scripted. When it was my turn, I placed neat folders on the board's table, citing County Ordinance 1247 and decades of tax records. Our agricultural rights predate this HOA by half a century. Murmurs quieted. Even Robert looked relieved. Victoria's coral armor couldn't hide her paling face as she mumbled withdrawal of complaints. I should have felt triumphant. But her departing smile told me the match had only just started. The first move of a much longer game. Before relief set in, Robert rose, voice trembling. If I may, the board recently passed Amendment 47B, he read the clause like a man forced to swallow glass. All properties conducting commercial activity must allow monthly HOA inspections. The activity in question. Our farmers market eggs and tomatoes. Legal knife through a loophole. Vote passed 7-3. Victoria savored every syllable. Inspection Monday at 7 a.m. Expect me personally. At home that night, I told Elena. She sipped wine, suspicious calm in her eyes. Then make it spotless, but keep cameras running. I spent the weekend scrubbing like a man on trial, sanitized coops, weed-free rows, fresh gravel. The farm looked like a wedding venue for vegetables. Monday dawned silver blue. Elena, already in her suit, said quietly, remember, record everything. Don't react. Love, I said, it's just an inspection. She looked straight through me. With Victoria, nothing is just anything. At 7 o'clock sharp, tires crunched on the drive. A Mercedes, a beat-up truck. Out came Victoria in couture white heels, accompanied by Robert and a younger man who looked like he'd auditioned for TV inspector. Sunglasses, clipboard, smugness. This is Harold, she announced. My cousin. Certified health and safety inspector. His certificate bore last Friday's date. Not state licensed, I observed. Victoria's lip twitched. Our bylaws give us the authority to select qualified individuals. Translation, whatever she wanted. She strode toward the gate. I stood firm but calm. No legal warrant, no entry. Her eyes sparkled, caught prey pretending to be hunter. Are you refusing to comply? She shouted, loud enough for curtains across the street to flutter. I'm complying with state law. Then it happened. She stepped forward, I raised an open palm to maintain distance, and she threw herself backward, gasping, he hit me. He threatened me. Robert's camera shook, capturing exactly the angle she wanted. Her phone was already connecting to 911 before dust from her fall settled. I stood motionless, pulse thundering. She'd rehearsed this scene long before showing up. 15 minutes later, flashing lights washed our driveway. Deputies Martinez and Johnson emerged, calm faces practiced for neighbor disputes dressed as crimes. Sir, we've got a report of threats, Martinez said. I nodded toward the cameras on my gate. Everything recorded. She rushed me, I never touched her. Across the yard, Victoria was mid-performance. Hand rings, trembling voice, tragic heroine of her own stage play. Her cousin looked nauseated, Robert avoided my eyes. Then my phone buzzed. Elena, don't sign or say anything you don't have to. I'm watching. Proceeding as expected. Proceeding as expected. The officers split duties, one listened to her sob story, the other to my factual account. After 10 minutes, their expressions aligned, another civil dispute. Ma'am, Officer Johnson said gently, there's no evidence of assault. False reports are serious. Victoria's jaw tightened. My safety was in danger, she protested. Your car was 10 feet away with engine running, Martinez reminded her. They filed a standard report and departed, with a pointed warning about future calls. As their cruisers disappeared, Victoria turned showman. Neighbors peeked out, phones recorded. This man is dangerous. Aggressive. Imagine if a child walked by. The rumor bonfire ignited before I even finished breathing. By lunch, social feeds buzzed with a new page, Safe Willowbrook Neighborhood. Founder, Victoria Sterling. Headline photo, me, frozen mid-gesture beside the gate. Caption, Farmer threatens HOA president during routine inspection, is your family safe? Thousands clicked share. Comments called me unstable, violent, a danger to kids. Longtime customers canceled orders, the organic market suspended our booth until further review. 10 years of community goodwill erased by one edited clip. That night, Elena studied the screen with predatory focus. Upload our raw footage. Now. Her voice wasn't anger, it was strategy. When we posted the unedited video, truth shone uglier for Victoria. Viewers swarmed in defense. But damage lingered, and Victoria had only begun her war. Within hours of our video, support poured in, followed by headlines twisting facts back around. Local news favored the drama. HOA president allegedly threatened at local farm. Our footage became a footnote. Then a knock on glass startled me. Dorothy Williams, our elder neighbor, once my third-grade teacher, stood holding a thermos of green tea. She sat at our kitchen table like someone arriving to deliver hard truth. "Marcus," she began softly, "I taught Victoria in high school. Bright girl, but power rotted her from the inside." Then she leaned closer. 3 families sold to her in 5 years, each harassed by violations until they broke. She listed names: the Johnsons, the Ingwins, the Walkers. Each story: false citations, crushing fines, forced sales. "Why us?" I asked. Dorothy's eyes glimmered sadly. "Your farm sits in the middle of a horseshoe of land she's already acquired. Without you, her development project stays incomplete. You're the final piece." I felt punch-drunk. This is business. She stands to make millions. Dorothy nodded. But look deeper. Check who actually owns the law firm sending those letters: Hartley and Associates. She paused at the door. "And Marcus, that black SUV isn't hers. Someone else is watching this." When she left, my kitchen was quiet but my heart was not. Dorothy had just turned a neighbor spat into a map of corruption. I powered on my laptop, ready to follow her breadcrumbs, and see whether they'd lead to salvation or ruin. The next morning's mail arrived by courier, a letter so thick and embossed it practically hissed money. Header: Hartley and Associates, attorneys at law. I read: "Our client Mrs. Victoria Sterling has suffered assault and emotional distress. Demand compensation $500,000 within 10 days or we will pursue criminal action for terroristic threats." Terroristic threats. For standing at my own gate. Rage faded to calculated focus. I searched the firm online. Marble website, Latin motto: smiles priced per billable hour. Senior partner, Jonathan Hartley. Personal bio: enjoys golf with family, including sister-in-law Victoria Sterling. There it was, family pipeline of extortion. Dig deeper, and the rot spread wide. 7 farms in 5 years had been sued by Hartley and Associates, later sold to a company called Corestone Development LLC. Shareholders: Victoria Sterling, a city planner, 2 zoning board members. A perfect crime loop: generate fines through HOA, escalate to lawsuits via the family law firm, crush owners into selling cheaply to Corestone, then flip land for millions. I printed everything, papers spilling across the kitchen like a conspiracy come to life. Staring at Grandpa's photo on the wall, I whispered, "I won't let them erase what you built." Then my phone buzzed: unknown number, meet me tomorrow, 2 p.m., Coffee Bean on Oak Street. Come alone. Trust no one. Robert. The same Robert who had filmed the false evidence. Traitor turned possible ally. Another text: "I can't live with this anymore." My gut twisted between fear and hope. If he was telling truth, I might finally have proof. If it was a trap, I'd be walking straight into another ambush. Either way, I'd show up. Some battles can't be fought from behind a gate. The Coffee Bean was nearly empty when I arrived at 2 p.m. Robert sat in the corner, fidgeting with his cup as if confessing to a priest. "She thinks I'm at a board meeting," he said, voice barely a whisper. "My daughter saw the video online, asked how I became a man who destroys families." He slid a flash drive across the table. Emails, meeting minutes, instructions to falsify records, everything. "It was never just you, Marcus. 7 families. Same pattern." I asked what changed his mind. He stared through the window where ordinary life was happening for people not living inside nightmares. "My daughter became a public defender. She believes in justice. I want her to believe I do too. Before leaving, Robert squeezed my arm. Friday at 3 p.m., whatever you do, don't sign anything. There are forces in motion. Hold on a little longer. He hurried out looking like a man who just set himself free but had to run before chains caught up. That night I found Elena home early, a rare sight. She stood over stacks of documents, tabs open to legal databases, energy radiating focus. We won't lose this farm, she said without glancing up. I told her everything, Corstone, the affidavits, Robert's drive. She took notes, quiet but intent. Then her phone rang. She answered in a tone I'd never heard before, professional, authoritative. Yes, sir. Friday 3 p.m., understood. Warrant signed. Team ready. When she hung up, I just stared. My brilliant wife was playing a game well above my pay grade. Elena, what exactly do you do again? Her smile was small, enigmatic. Everything I do is about protecting families like ours. Trust me for 48 hours more. Thursday evening, the air felt weighted with anticipation. Elena hung a garment bag in our closet, dark blue fabric, gold buttons gleaming through plastic. Big day tomorrow, she said, pouring wine, something she never did on work nights. Her eyes sparkled with plans she wouldn't share. Documents spread across the dining table like a strategic map, property deeds, HOA bylaws, financial flows, police reports with black bars where names should be. The big case I told you about, she explained, started months ago. A farmer in the next county reported similar tactics. Violations. Lawsuits. Forced sales. We traced it to Corstone. She pointed to a map, red X's where families had lost land, a blue circle around ours. You're the keystone. They can't complete their project without Willow Oak Ranch. I was half proud, half terrified. How do you know all this? She smiled. Because I'm the one investigating it. She reached for her wallet, paying for the wine, and a badge flashed, ornate, 5-point star, etched with one word, Chief. Elena. Tomorrow, she cut in, placing a finger to my lips, everything becomes clear. Just don't sign anything. Wait until 3 o'clock. At 9 p.m. an email arrived from Victoria, final meeting Friday 3 p.m. Last chance to avoid legal action. Elena read it, laughed softly. Perfect. She has no idea what's coming. Her fingers flew over her phone screen sending covert texts. Then she looked up and grinned. Wear your blue shirt tomorrow. It photographs well. Photographs? Trust me. When we turned in for the night, she set an alarm for 6 a.m., then whispered in the dark, the good guys get their turn. Friday dawned crisp and gold, as if the sky itself were mocking what was coming. By 2:55 p.m., the HOA conference room was standing room only. Victoria sat at the head like a monarch, flanked by lawyers in dark suits. Jonathan Hartley himself was on her right, predatory smile ready. Mr. Thompson, Victoria cooed. So glad you chose reason. Let's not be unpleasant. Hartley slid a contract toward me. An amicable settlement offer, market value minus fees and damages. You walk away comfortable. I scanned the bottom line. Half the property's value. Generous, I said dryly, if I were selling a used tractor. Hartley's smirk did not reach his eyes. Refuse, and we bury you in litigation. Victoria leaned closer, voice silky as poison. Your farm will go to auction within 6 months. Decide. The clock above her ticked toward 3 p.m. exactly when Robert had told me to wait. I opened my mouth to stall when the door slammed open. Footsteps. Confident. Measured. Every head turned. Elena strode in wearing the dark blue uniform from the closet, gold buttons glinting like justice itself. A chief's badge glistened at her chest. 3 officers fanned out behind her. "Apologies for tardiness," she said pleasantly. "Traffic and warrants take time." The room fell into pin-drop silence. Victoria half stood. "What is this?" Elena unlatched a folder thick as a brick. "Official business." "Mrs. Sterling, Mr. Hartley, please remain seated. You're under arrest for racketeering, fraud, extortion, and filing false police reports." Gasps rippled, a chair scraped. Hartley's face drained 2 shades of golf course tan. Elena spread photos and bank records like a grand reveal. 7 families over 5 years. HOA violations fabricated. Properties laundered through Corestone Development LLC, owned by you. Hartley stammered, "You can't prove." "We can," Elena cut in. 18 months of financials. Emails. 3 victims already testified. Then Robert Hayes stood and added, voice steady, "I'll testify too. I kept copies of every illegal order Victoria gave me." That was the moment tray tables of karma snapped upright and locked for landing. "You pathetic worm." Victoria snarled at Robert. "After everything, you betray me?" He met her glare with calm grief. "My daughter asked what kind of man I was. Today I'm showing her." Elena read their rights while officers secured evidence. Cameras flashed. One member of the press Elena had secretly alerted stood filming every second. Victoria screeched, "This is entrapment. I'll sue the department." Elena cocked an eyebrow. "No entrapment. Just accountability." She turned to the crowd. "For years, these individuals used power to destroy neighbors. That ends today." As handcuffs clicked, residents began clapping, hesitant at first, then growing like rain after drought. Even people who once believed her stories felt the spell break. When the room emptied, I finally asked Elena, "How long have you known?" "Since the day Victoria offered to buy you out." She explained how the department had launched a corruption task force. They needed a case that would expose the whole network. "Our farm was bait on purpose." "You used me as bait," I said softly. She touched my hand. "I trusted you to stand your ground so their greed would unravel publicly. You did exactly that." Outside, Victoria was loaded into a squad car, spitting promises of revenge. Elena murmured, "Her connections are being arrested in 3 other counties right now." Justice had arrived in neatly pressed uniforms and steel bracelets. And for the first time in months, I could finally breathe without inhaling fear. News spread faster than prairie fire. By morning, every local channel splashed the same headline, "HOA scheme exposed by police chief." Reporters replayed the footage taken from that conference room, Victoria's arrest mid-sentence, my stunned face caught behind her shoulder. The public couldn't get enough. Commentators argued over how many other neighborhoods might hide similar webs of greed. During one on-camera interview, Elena stood at a podium in her pressed uniform, shoulders square beneath the weight of responsibility. "This investigation revealed coordinated fraud stretching across 3 counties," she said, voice calm but unyielding. "Those who used neighborhood governance for personal enrichment will answer for it." No drama, just truth. The crowd of journalists leaned forward as if gravity itself had shifted toward her. Within 48 hours, cooperating developers surrendered files of their own to authorities. The city planning office initiated internal audits. Council members who once toasted champagne with Victoria suddenly remembered they'd always been concerned about her tactics. Funny how memory improves when justice shows its badge. Robert Hayes surrendered every digital record he'd hidden, emails, falsified minutes, secret payments. One detective told me later, he handed us a skeleton key. Robert entered a protected witness program for the duration of the trial. Before leaving town, he texted, "Tell your wife thank you. Tell your chickens they're officially safe." Neighbors who'd once crossed the street to avoid me now left loaves of bread at our gate. Dorothy Williams spent her evenings fielding reporters who wanted the local wisdom angle. She simply told them, evil doesn't vanish on its own. Good people have to stay awake. Standing outside at twilight, I gazed over the same 20 acres that almost became another developer's trophy. Finally, the air felt light. The war was shifting from survival to rebuilding. Still, beneath relief pulsed a sober understanding: if one HOA could be weaponized, others might lurk unseen, waiting for power to tempt them too. Trials grind like old tractors, noisy, slow, but unstoppable once engaged. For months, subpoenas, depositions, and hearings filled our calendar. Elena managed them with the precision of a symphony conductor. I mostly showed up when the prosecutor needed a victim statement, trying to appear calm while reliving scenes I wanted erased. When sentencing day arrived, the courtroom overflowed. Victoria appeared smaller somehow, her designer polish dulled by fluorescent light. Hartley sat beside her, jaw tight but resigned. The judge read charges of racketeering, wire fraud, and filing false police reports. Each phrase sounded like individual nails in the coffin of arrogance. Victoria took a plea deal, 8 years in federal prison, eligible for parole in 6. Hartley received 5 and permanent disbarment. The court froze Corstone's accounts and ordered funds liquidated toward a restitution pool for families they defrauded. Dorothy and the surviving landowners attended together, holding hands like survivors at the end of a storm. When my turn came to address the defendants, I said simply, "You weaponized paperwork to destroy livelihoods. Today paperwork restores them." Balance achieved. A few people clapped before the judge's gavel restored silence. Outside, cameras waited. Elena faced them, hair ruffled by wind. "This case reminds us," she said, "that power, when unchecked, corrodes imagination first, conscience second. Oversight isn't bureaucracy, it's protection." Applause broke out from civilians, not reporters. For once, the story centered on accountability rather than spectacle. Robert, shielded behind dark glasses, watched from a distance. He nodded once, gratitude unspoken. Later that week he called to say he was joining a nonprofit dedicated to HOA reform. Redemption may not cancel old sins, but it can revise the ending. That night, under brittle winter stars, Elena and I sat by the barn's lantern glow, exhausted yet cleansed. Lawsuits may end, but truth keeps echoing long after the judge's gavel fades. Spring returned, bringing with it something novel: peace. With Victoria gone, Willowbrook Estates had to decide what kind of community it wanted to be. At a neighborhood vote, Dorothy Williams was unanimously elected HOA president. She accepted with a teacher's smile. Less paperwork, more pie, she promised. Her very first motion dissolved punitive fines and replaced mandatory meetings with optional first Sunday potlucks. The transformation was instant. People who hadn't spoken in years shared recipes and joked about whose lawn looked worse. We built connection instead of suspicion. One Saturday, I hauled baskets of tomatoes and eggs to the community center. The little crowd applauded, not out of pity, but solidarity. "We're buying local now," a teenager said, handing me $10 for the freshest dozen on earth. Commerce by conscience. Online, followers who'd once doom-scrolled through conflict now watched uplifting reels of baby chicks instead of lawsuits. Traffic at our farmer's stand tripled. Elena teased, "Looks like justice pays better than coding ever did." Yet even amid success, caution remained. Elena urged the new board to adopt transparency guidelines, published budgets, recorded meetings, rotating officers. "Good governance is like compost," she said with a grin. "Turn it often, or it starts to stink." Everyone laughed, because they knew she meant it. On the second Sunday potluck, the smell of barbecued corn drifted across lawns as dusk fell. For the first time in years, no one looked over their shoulder. The war with fear was finally over, and community tasted like homemade cobbler. Half a year later, the farm breathed differently, slower, content. At twilight, our porch swing creaked in rhythm with crickets. Elena stretched her legs over mine, badge resting inside the house where it couldn't reach us for a few hours. To quiet evenings and caffeinated roosters, I toasted with lemonade. She laughed. To stubborn farmers who don't sell out. Everywhere we looked, life had reclaimed its rhythm. Chicks pecked near flower beds, bees loaded themselves with pollen from the new lavender rose. The chaos that had nearly wrecked us had accidentally fertilized something better: awareness, unity, purpose. The local paper ran a follow-up headline: Willowbrook HOA sets example for statewide reform. The journalist asked if Elena missed undercover work. She shrugged. There's always the next bully, she said, but tonight, there's dinner. When she returned from town meetings, sometimes she'd bring donuts from the police station, still warm. We'd sit outside with powdered sugar on our fingers, talking about everything except law or crime, gardens, movies, why the barn cat refused affection unless bribed with tuna. It struck me then how easily joy hides behind ordinary moments. You just have to protect them long enough for them to bloom. I thought of my grandfather again. He survived droughts and wars, I'd survived bureaucracy and deceit. Different battles, same mission: keep the land honest. Elena leaned her head on my shoulder. It's not the badge that makes justice, she murmured, it's people refusing to look away. I nodded. Out beyond the fence, fireflies blinked like distant applause. One bright Sunday afternoon, Robert Hayes reappeared, this time without fear shadowing his face. Beside him walked his daughter, Lydia, the public defender who'd unknowingly sparked his turnabout. She hugged me like family, thanking us for standing firm. My dad helps our clients file HOA defense petitions now, she said proudly. Robert smiled, bashful. Figured I'd trade billable hours for something that lets me sleep at night. We toured the orchard together. He stopped beside the old apple tree my father grafted decades ago, touching its bark as though apologizing for all the paperwork once aimed to destroy it. Hardest lesson of my career, he admitted. Power without conscience rots the soul faster than greed ever could. Before leaving, he handed me a tiny carved gavel of walnut wood. Made it myself, he said. Remind yourself that ordinary people can pass judgment every day, simply by choosing decency. As their car pulled away, Elena joined me by the fence. Redemption's contagious, she said. We watched dust from his tires fade into sunset. Maybe that's the real closure, I answered. People healing where harm lived. Later that evening, while feeding hens, I realized the farm hummed differently, like gratitude woven into every cluck. Even the stubborn rooster seemed to strut more kindly. Some nights justice arrives in headlines and flashing lights. Other nights it shows up for coffee, apologizes, and helps you prune apple branches. Farming has a way of turning philosophy into muscle memory. Each seed you drop is an act of faith, each weed you pull is proof that neglect invites chaos. I started using our land as an open classroom. Saturdays, groups of kids from local schools arrived for farm and fairness tours. We'd show them how to plant herbs, and Elena would explain how laws, like gardens, demand constant tending. Bad rules are like weeds, she told them, crouched in her uniform beside a carrot row. Ignore them long enough and they take over everything layered underneath. The children nodded solemnly, maybe partly because she was the chief with mud on her knees. Parents thanked us afterward, some confessing they'd feared HOAs as untouchable authorities. Now they saw they could challenge wrongdoing with information and persistence. I watched light bulbs of empowerment flick on behind tired eyes. That was worth more than any grant. We partnered with local businesses to donate vegetables to food banks, turning former scandal into tangible goodwill. The mayor visited once, snapping promotional photos and whispering to Elena, "You realize you've become the poster child for ethical leadership." She snorted. Let's focus on being the farmer's wife's wife first. By midsummer, sunflowers towered like cheerful sentinels. Standing there, I repeated our unwritten motto aloud: tend truth, harvest peace. That seemed to capture both our marriage and our mission. When volunteers left at dusk, the empty fields glowed amber. I thought of every person still stuck under corrupt HOA boards, not yet knowing rescue was possible. "We're just getting started," I told the wind, and it rustled back like agreement. Late August brought another black SUV to our drive. Reflex made my stomach tighten, but this time 2 federal agents stepped out smiling. Chief Thompson, one greeted warmly, flashing credentials. "We came to deliver good news. Because of your investigation, we've dismantled 3 connected rings across state lines. A dozen arrests this week alone." Elena offered her professional handshake, equal parts pride and composure. "Happy to help clean the garden," she said. I couldn't resist. "So, even the feds are fans of free-range justice now?" They laughed, took photos with our sheep, and promised to return for pies at the next potluck. As the SUV drove off, Elena exhaled slowly. "I guess word travels after all." That evening, we hosted half the neighborhood at our barn to celebrate. A string of fairy lights hung across rafters, Mary from 2 doors down played guitar, children chased each other between hay bales. No speeches, no press, just normality hard-won. In the middle of laughter, I noticed Elena quietly step outside, phone pressed to her ear. She was coordinating with another jurisdiction, sharing evidence templates. When she returned, I handed her a cider. "Can you ever switch that part of your brain off?" She smiled. "Would you ask our rooster to sleep in?" Fair point. That night ended with sparklers under the stars. The same community once divided now looked like a living promise, trust rebuilt plank by plank, handshake by handshake. For the first time since this started, I realized our story wasn't defined by confrontation anymore. It was defined by connection. Autumn arrived gentle and gold. The air smelled of apples and accountability. With restitution money allocated, we launched the Willow Oak Education Fund to help young farmers afford equipment and legal consultations, because every dream deserves both soil and safeguards. Dorothy oversaw the Orchards Youth Brigade, teaching children how to graft saplings while sneaking them history lessons about community courage. Elena chaired a regional task force auditing HOA finances statewide. Reports of resignations rolled in like falling leaves, chairpeople stepping down for personal reasons. Translation, caught before indicted. One afternoon, we stood by the fence line watching a visiting 4th grade class plant pear trees. Their laughter carried like birdsong. "Imagine Grandpa seeing this," I said. Elena nodded. "He'd probably tell you to fix that northwest fence post while you're at it." We laughed until tears blurred the horizon. The sunset threw long shadows across tilled rows, each furrow a chapter of resilience. I realized that legacy isn't what's left to you, it's what you choose to leave sturdy for the next hands. Inside the barn, hanging above the door, we mounted Robert's little carved gavel. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Fairness grows here." Visitors always touched it for luck on their way out. Sometimes at night I'd lie awake, not with worry but purpose, plotting ways to ensure the cycle of exploitation never sprouted again. Justice, after all, needed irrigation too. The months following felt almost ordinary, except every ordinary moment now glowed with meaning. I'd deliver produce downtown and strangers would stop me. "You're that farmer, right? The one whose wife arrested the HOA lady?" I'd nod, laugh, and suggest they try our heirloom tomatoes. Internet notoriety was odd. Comment sections called Elena a legend, a meme, a real-life superhero. She took it gracefully, though occasionally she'd stick printed memes on the fridge for amusement. My favorite caption read, "Never underestimate a woman protecting her chickens, or her husband." Despite light-hearted fame, Elena remained practical. She began drafting a statewide bill safeguarding agricultural exemptions from HOA overreach. Late nights at her desk glowed with laptop light and determination. "This isn't just paperwork," she'd tell me. "It's future armor." Watching her work filled me with quiet awe. I'd fallen for her strength long ago, but now I saw its full bandwidth: discipline, empathy, humor. Sometimes, I'd step onto the porch alone, breathing that same dawn air I'd once filled with dread. The wind smelled like promise now. I thought of every person still trapped by bureaucracy's small tyrants. Maybe hearing our tale would remind them they weren't powerless. Elena joined me, wrapping a blanket around our shoulders. Thinking about new beginnings again? Always, I said. Seems seeds keep volunteering themselves. She smiled. Then maybe let's plant one more. And that's how the idea for our next story, our next stand, took root. Half a year later, the scandals had cooled, verdicts settled, restitution distributed. Life might have resumed quietly if justice didn't have such a restless spirit around our household. One crisp evening, the phone rang. A man from Texas spoke fast, nervous. "Ma'am, Chief Thompson. Same pattern here. HOA threats, staged inspections. People are losing their farms." Elena listened without interrupting, jotting names. "Send every file you have," she said. "We'll connect you with the task force." When she hung up, she looked at me, eyes already burning with mission. "Guess the next field's ready for plowing." I smiled, shaking my head. "Think we'll ever have a scandal-free harvest?" She grinned. "That'd be boring." We walked outside, down the familiar gravel path. The sunset painted everything crimson gold. Chickens strutted like parade marshals. The world felt solid again. On impulse, I picked up my camera, our new tradition each time life wrote a twist ending, and started recording. "Folks," I said into the lens, "sometimes the person calling the cops is the one who should be wearing cuffs. Sometimes heroes look like farmers, sometimes like police chiefs, and sometimes, if you're lucky, both live in the same house." Elena waved from behind me, laughing. "Tell them to tend their gardens and their rights." "You heard the chief," I added. "Tend both." As we stood there filming the last light dip behind the barn, I realized stories like ours don't really end, they just plant sequels. Justice isn't a destination, it's a stubborn crop that keeps coming back no matter how often greed tries to scorch the field. Camera lens caught the final shimmer of sun over Willow Oak Ranch, glinting off the weathered sign at our gate, paint newly refreshed, words hand-carved by my grandfather 70 years before: "Work hard. Be kind. Stand your ground." Fade out on golden rows, crowing roosters, and the comfortable, defiant certainty that truth, once rooted, always finds its way to harvest.